Hello, this is Mama Jess. Today I'm going to show you a trick. This will most likely be useful for the online cheese making community, but if you have been following along with my skill sets, I still think it's something cool to learn. So this is the situation. So I have to make cheese often because we have a couple dairy cows and there's a lot of milk. So almost every other day I'm making cheese and I take the cheese out of the cheesecloth and sometimes it looks like this. I don't always know why this happens. Like, was the air to like low humidity? Was the weight too heavy? Like, I'm doing the same exact thing almost every other day. Why does it do this sometimes? But when this happens, this is very difficult to get off. I'm usually pretty patient. I could sit there and pick at stuff, but this, I was losing my mind. So I said, I've got to find something else. And just imagine if the whole thing was this way, with this stuck. Like, I was ready to give up. I was ready to burn it. I was ready just to throw it away. I did go online to see if I could find out how to deal with it, but I only found a forum. And some said soak it in vinegar. Some said soak it in baking soda. Some said soak it in vinegar and baking soda. Some said soap. And some said soak it in hot water. But then some said don't soak it in hot water because it's going to melt the cheese under that kind of high heat and just smear it and make it more of a sticky mess, which was true. So I tried everything they said, nothing worked. So common sense, I looked at that and I thought, what needs to happen? Go, well, ideally I need all of these to get hard because they're still kind of gooey. Even in this cold water, it's still not enough to make it easy to peel off. So this was my idea. I need it to harden, so I'm going to put it in the freezer. So when I'm first dealing with this in the morning, taking the cheesecloth off of the wheel of cheese, I don't want to deal with it. So I put it in a bowl of water, a cold water, and I let it sit there sometimes for days. I don't get to it because I got too much I'm doing. And what it does is, number one, I do want the cloth to get wet so that when it freezes, the whole thing's going to be able to become rigid, which will be easier to scrub. But also because in the summer, I've got gnats, I've got flies, and sometimes little mice will get in the kitchen. And I don't want them to have access to the cheesecloth. Okay, so, they'll just attract, It's like having a compost pile. You just want to cover it. So if it's submerged in water, this is covered, it's safe, and it just sits here. So then I'm ready. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to wring it out of as much water as I can. And then I'm going to take a cookie sheet. And my objective is that I want to lay this flat, have it be frozen flat, so that it's an easier surface to scrub, okay? So it's going to look something like that, okay? And I try to get the rest of the cheesecloth, kind of curl it up on the sides. I'm still inventing this trick. So I'm kind of curling it up. But I want, because all this is going to get hard, like this is going to get hard. So I'm trying to think about the configuration of the cloth. Like, how will it be the best for me to access the stuck cheese and scrape it off? So I'm thinking something like that, okay? So now I'm going to put it into the freezer, and like I always do, I forget that it's there because I'm busy all day doing things. But then when I'm ready, I open up the freezer and I go, oh, it's there. Now I'm ready to deal with this. And yet I think that you could probably, if you want, put it in for like 15-20 minutes and see if it's rigid and ready to be scrubbed on. Okay, but otherwise I just put it in and forget about it, and I'll get to it later, okay? But this is a very small amount and it's going to go quick anyway. But yeah, so I'm going to put this in the freezer. I'll get back to you when it is ready to be scrubbed on, when it's finally frozen. All right. One other thing, there are times my freezer is so packed that I cannot even get a cookie sheet in it. And so what I've done is that I just kind of, I take the cheesecloth and I kind of get it in this position, and I just kind of like stuff it in and squish it in somehow. Because really, I'm ultimately going after the frozen status of the cheesecloth. And then when it's pulled out, of the freezer, it gets a little bit more malleable within, you know, a minute, and then I can get it in the position I want. But because that cheese is now frozen, it's going to be able to be scraped off very easily. So I'll get back to you shortly. All right, here we are. So it's only been about 20 minutes, and this is feeling really ready to go. When I pushed it into the freezer, where I wanted this to not be underneath, it got, you know, bent and stuff. So you really want to try to get all of the cheesecloth to not be tucked underneath it. Okay, so here we go. Ta-da! That's what it looks like. Okay. So I like to move relatively quickly, and you'll see, like, this is, if there's like, this is really hard to kind of like open up and move around. So however you figure out how to fold it, you know, just be mindful this is what happens. It gets pretty rigid. So now I'm going to scrub it off. So come on over and take a look at what I do. Okay, so I have my scrub brush. Maybe you could use something like this, but I don't know, unless you really have your hand on top of it and like scrub it hard like that, because you really have to have, like, this would just, I think, be too weak. You really have to have a little bit more force on top of it. So then I get this wet in cold water. Okay. Now I hang on to one end, and now I'm rubbing it off. And I think I needed to let it go longer. Honestly, this is not as frozen as I would like. So I would say do it longer than 20 minutes. I was trying to see when it would really be frozen up. But this is still working. Okay. Okay, it's gone. Okay, ta-da! A little bit more on this side, but it's so nice that it just brushes right off. Okay, you will see that if you've done this enough or you've had to scrub it out, it starts wanting to kind of pull on the threads. Okay, kind of open it up. But either way, this is still salvaged. It's better than the other of having cheese stuck all over it and never being able to get it off. But either way, it's clean. All right, I hope that helps you. Have a great day, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.